and gentlemen, without further ado, please put your hands together. Give a huge round of applause. Go wild and give it up for Marrron to the stars.
Hello? Oh yeah. Good evening, beautiful, wonderful people of the Brunswick on a Monday night, the open mic. How is everybody doing this evening?
Pretty good.
Pretty good, pretty good.
Let's have some chips.
Have you? Are they good?
They're great.
Next have some chips, lovely. Settling into the chip mood. So my name is Marrron, and I come along here once, trying to do it once a week, but once every fortnight or once a month even, for my therapy session with you guys, with you beautiful people as being the therapist. Or it feels like a little bit like medicine. I'm here for my medicine, because this is something, there's a part of me doesn't want to do this, doesn't want to come along and stand up. I like dressing up, I'm happy with that bit. But there's a resistance to that. You know, what happens if people don't like me? What happens if people don't find me funny? All this stuff going on. Yeah. So can you relate to that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a sense of wanting to be liked. So this is kind of one of the reasons why I'm doing this, is to overcome a bit of a fear of public speaking, being visible, and needing to be liked, seeking verification and validation. Actually, I think validation is the right word.
You're beautiful, man.
Outside.
You're beautiful. You're
All right,
beautiful.
thank you, Louis. Appreciate that. So what I'd like to talk about, something that's become very apparent in the last couple of weeks, or since I was here last time, was my control issues. Does anybody here have things that they like to control?
Him already, but this work.
So Louis just said his old lady, but it doesn't work. So you've tried a few things, Louis, over the years.
Everything.
Tried everything, yeah. Does she do the same to you?
Yeah.
Yeah?
She's too smart.
She's too smart, okay. Yeah. So something that's been kind of playing out is a certain, because I like to think of myself as quite a nice person, or this is the image that I like to portray to people. So I'm very nice and chilled, easygoing. I'm like, yeah, okay, let's go with it, but actually the truth is something else. And it's a big thing for me to reveal that to a room full of, I guess, relative strangers. We know each other from the open mics on Monday, Sundays. So, yeah, how that kind of plays out. And I've become aware, actually, fairly recently. Oh, Nick, could you give us a 3-minute warning?
Will do, yeah.
Thank you. I want to do something with you at the end. It doesn't involve touch, necessarily, but we'll see how we go. We're all friends here, we're all part of one big family. Actually, you could kind of say the same could be said about humanity, so we'll come on to that at the end. And yeah, it's a really interesting thing, this being human. I find it really fascinating. I've been on a journey for quite a number of years now, trying to understand how we generate happiness and suffering for ourselves and those around us, and we can watch that playing out, right? Just looking at what's going on in the news, or what the news that we are fed, which is, on the whole, there's not a lot of good stuff going on, if we believe that that's all that's going on. But when we come out, when we leave the front door and come down to the Brunswick on an open mic night, it's pretty cool. There's a nice vibe, lots of lovely people. So something that I realised, that actually I'm made up of all these different parts. Because there is this person who actually has a lot of love, has got a developing love, compassion for all beings and all human beings, regardless of if they like the wrong football team. Because that was something I kind of grew up with, is that you have to hate these people because they like a different football team to you. And I thought, okay, that made sense at the time, but then you started, and I wanted to belong to that. So I went along with that for a while, but then I wanted to belong in a more inclusive way, that as humanity, I feel that there is a lot more that brings us together than divides us if we just scratch a little bit below the surface. We're all looking for happiness, we're all looking for well-being. And this is something that I'm doing, but there's actually different parts of me that I'm learning to understand. They've served me in a way. So this control part is, and I learned recently, there is a correct and an incorrect way of crossing the road. Did you know that? Because I noticed myself in a massive state of judgment that somebody, because they were crossing the road not in a way that I thought was acceptable or was the right way to do things. Because I've just had this healing session the day before. I think it was the most I'd paid for a one-to-one healing session the day before. And there's an expectation I should is an interesting word, right? Should have been full of love and compassion for people. There was a guy, I was trying to cross the road. It was on Kingsway, near the Co-op, if you know that part of town. And I wanted to cross the road before I reached the kind of island bit. And then I was relying on this guy, and he had his bike with him. I was relying on him pushing a button to cross the road. And this guy didn't do it. So what was interesting about that wasn't the fact that this didn't happen, but it's like my reaction to it, because there's this part of me. I just felt this anger and resentment to this guy who was a complete stranger. So what's that all about? Where does that all come from? And I caught myself off guard because I thought, hey, I shouldn't be feeling this way. I should be compassionate. So there was this intensity in my body which I had to kind of feel into and allow, this part of me which wanted me to cross the road safely and in the way that I wanted to do it. So then I'm trying to bring compassion to this part of me which is basically an egomaniac. And it's an interesting thing to share in a room full of relative strangers, maybe a little bit less than a few minutes ago, and certainly less than the start of the night, that actually this little guy is like this funny little monster that lives inside me. He's like I'm trying to make him my friend, but he's a little bit odd, because the way he plays out in certain situations is, if he had his way, and this is just, I like to just clarify for everybody here, 'cause when you walk home tonight, this part of me is only a part, but he flashes up, and sometimes he wants to kill people. And all that requires this homicidal little fella inside me is for someone to cross the road incorrectly, for someone to park their car in a way that's a little bit too unnecessarily close to my car. And because I like to control things, I won't actually go out my car very often if I've got a parking space which I'm worried about losing. But this little guy, so like in the supermarket, if someone cuts me up in the queue, rather than me thinking, oh, yeah, I wonder what's going on for that person. They might have a loved one in hospital. There could be all sorts of things going on there. But this little fella, in that moment, he wants to kill that person. Now, feel free to judge me on that. Can anyone relate to that? And it's fine to say no, that you're the only person in the world that's probably experienced this homicidal maniac that lives inside you, that fortunately doesn't get to drive the bus very often, because that'd be a very different thing.
I can definitely relate, and this is your 3-minute warning.
Thank you. So
I killed a kid in Reno, though.
you killed a kid?
In Reno, yeah.
In Reno, okay, yeah. Thanks, Nick.
So do you attack for it?
Yeah. So that's making me feel a little bit better, even though it's, from a song. Can I just ask just quickly though, any situations that you'd like to share where it can kind of produce quite an intense feeling of, let's say, dislike, without actually wanting to kill someone, but you're just kind of aware of it in any situation? Yeah? Like to share?
I've been on and off with smoking for a while.
Okay.
And I went to Busk in Brighton on the weekend.
Yeah.
And I was meeting my parents, and I was super stressed about meeting my parents. And I picked up some fags on the way.
Yeah.
And there's this little gap to go through to the station, and it's really narrow. And this woman was walking down. I didn't see her. I was around these little teenagers, and this woman just stood there in front of me when I like emerged in the path and didn't say anything. Expected me to like reverse and turn and like bow down. So I walked. I just like scraped past on the wall, and then and then this girl went, "That was really rude." And I turned around with the cigarette in hand and went, "What the fuck was rude?"
Yeah.
And then
Ah.
at the moment I was about to punch a kid, and then I was
Punching children. Thank you. I mean, what's your name?
Scott.
Scott.
Yeah.
Thank you, Scott. So,
Long stories.
long story. And this is what I think might form. I've got this idea. I talk about things more than doing them quite a lot. It's a long story for next week, perhaps. But this is a book that I want to write because I want to bring all this stuff to the surface. Because if we can bring love, first of all, and compassion to ourselves, first of all, and then we can bring compassion to others. But the working title of this book is "It's Okay to Want to Kill People." As a way of just saying, look, let's bring this stuff out there. We're not the only, I'm not the only one. So anyway, so Nick, is it okay if we go a couple of minutes over? Because it's probably easier for me
Go
to...
on, darling, absolutely. You do
thank
you.
you.
You do you.
Okay. So, to everybody here and the millions watching at home, what I'd like to do is, and Louis with a couple of beautiful songs talking about hatred and love, and this mad world that we kind of live in. I mean, this is the thing I'm trying to make sense of, that all these things coexist, and the argument is, how do we know what love is unless there's hatred and darkness in the world? So, but I'd like to do a little bit of a meditation. We're going to tap into some love to finish things off rather than hatred and judgment. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. It's a little bit different. It's not your typical open mic performance, I grant you that. So I'd like to invite you all just to allow your eyelids to go heavy and allow your eyes just to close to help you go inwards, or if it's more comfortable, just looking at a spot on the floor in front of you. So sometimes we have a choice. We can make a choice between hatred, judgment, and love. So I'd just like you to imagine, to visualize, or feel a particular person or an animal for whom you have unconditional love. Just the mere thought of that person or animal can just bring a smile to your face and a warmth in your heart. Just allowing that feeling to be there. Allowing now that feeling to expand throughout your whole body. May even have a colour associated with it. And expanding now that feeling beyond your physical body. Filling the whole room. Expanding the whole pub. Feeling that beautiful feeling. Expanding the whole of Brighton and Hove. And the whole country. Just imagining everybody, even those people that you don't like very much. Imagine them sending them love and happiness, wishing them peace. And expanding further, the whole planet, if you can imagine that. This feeling of love growing and growing. Connecting all beings and all human beings, regardless of the surface labels and differences we may perceive. Feeling that inside your body, how quickly that feeling can come about. And how it can quickly change our day. extending that feeling of love to yourself now. The more we can cultivate a feeling of love and compassion for ourselves, first of all, the more we can spread it. Because we know it's not always easy being a human being. We face challenges, disappointments. And we're all trying to do the best we can. So bringing that love inwards, you're actually doing a pretty good job. Okay, and then just coming back a little bit now, just feeling the sensations in your hands and your feet, fingers and toes, and give them a little bit of movement there. Yeah, and just remembering to go out into the world, and the world, what does the world need more of? Good love. Yeah, absolutely. And we can do that in music in many different ways. And so thank you very much for listening. I've been Marrron. Thank you for the beautiful music so far and the music yet to come, and see you guys around. Thank you for listening.
Everyone please give it up for one for Marrron.
That's great.
Next up to the stage is going to be Karina.